last night, the Iranian parliament took the decision to actually authorize the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, and this is of course something that worries the US very much, and the US is already calling on China to help prevent Iran from closing the strait. And the interesting thing here is that if the Iranians try to close the strait the way that the Houthis tried to prevent shipping from reaching Israel, then of course we would expect that Iran will only block certain ships. It will only block US traffic and Israeli traffic and maybe European traffic, depending on what they do. But it would obviously try to let China pass, because for China, the Strait of Hormuz is also very, very important. Especially for its oil imports. So completely closing the Strait of Hormuz would be a big blow to China, and that cannot be something that Iran really wants to do, as it would be counterproductive. But it is also super interesting to see that again the United States is calling on the countries and the nations that it already officially designated as future enemies, and that it officially wants to fight to help them. I mean, they did that in the past when asking China to help fight Russia, and obviously China wouldn't do that. They do it again, telling China to basically help weakening their ally. I think at this point it's really just this is one of the ways to try to again draw this picture that China, because they don't help contain Iran, therefore China too is evil and so on. I mean, it feeds into the same narrative, but they still try, and we still have these stupid headlines which are obviously meant to do which obviously do nothing. And then one more thing that happened, and that's really fascinating, somebody pointed this out on Twitter, is that how now the reactions from other Western leaders from the collective West are like tickling in, and we have the official wording. And if you compare the wording, it's really, really scary how apparently the memo has gone around to the G7 of how to answer, how to react, how to state, and even phrase their statements about what the United States just did. There's of course no condemnation, not at all. There's condemnation of Iran by all the G7 and collective West leaders. There's no condemnation of the United States. And just listen to this. It's almost Orwellian if you think that these are the leaders of their respective countries. We have Keir Starmer, we have the new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, we have Kaja Kallas, and then we have a statement about from Australia, from the Australian government. Just listen to this. Keir Starmer's message reads: Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the US has taken action to alleviate that threat. The situation in the Middle East remains volatile, and stability in the region is a priority. We call on Iran to return to the negotiating table and reach a diplomatic solution to end the crisis. Read this one, Carney. Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security, and Canada has been consistently clear that Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. While the US military action taken last night was designed to alleviate that threat, the situation in the Middle East remains highly volatile. Stability in the region is priority. Kaja Kallas. Iran must not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, as it would be a threat to international security. I urge all sides to step back, return to the negotiating table, and prevent further escalation. EU foreign ministers will discuss the situation tomorrow. And Australia. We have been clear that Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program has been a threat to international peace and security, a government spokesperson has written in a statement. We note the US president's statement that now is the time for peace. The security situation in the region is highly volatile. I mean, seriously, how come that these messages sound so incredibly similar? How does that happen if not through outright policy coordination and basically a under the hood kind of discussion, right, on how to signal together as a bloc? It's just scary if you think that these people pretend to be the leaders of independent and sovereign nations when in fact they're obviously just the decision receivers from abroad. And when Washington says, look, this is what you have to say and this is how you have to argue, we strength through unity, and everybody says the same. This is how satellites are. This is why the collective West, to me, I mean, the Europeans, but also Canada, Australia, they're not sovereign independent nations. They are satellites of the Western power center of Washington, and to some degree probably Israel too. Pretty much the way, how Poland and Romania and Bulgaria were nominally independent nations during the Cold War, but de facto they were under very tight control of the Soviet Union. And that doesn't mean that they never decided anything for themselves, especially internally, but it meant that whenever it came